So what do you do if you and your spouse are not on the same page or same pace of growth? We're going to get into it now.
Welcome back to the Freedom Parent Podcast.
Holla, holla.
I'm Sam.
I'm Harold.
Sometimes we introduce ourselves. Sometimes we don't.
I think we're pretty
Sometimes
consistent.
you feel... No, what is that? It's an old jingle. So today we are talking about what do you do in a season where you are building your dream. You may even be new at it. You may not be new at building your dream, your side hustle, your whatever you're working towards. But you find yourself in a season when it feels like very few people are for you and most people are against you. Primarily the people you love the most. And what do you do? So you and I have a very long history now. Well, I feel like it's very long, but we work predominantly with a lot of married people, Sometimes we work with the couples as a whole. And sometimes in the beginning, we're working with one part of that partnership.
Mm-hmm.
We work with newlyweds too, coming into business together. And so, we have a lot of experience in this topic, but also most importantly, personal experience too. So this is it's a very character building season for an entrepreneur, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, I think we were on a training the other night, and sometimes we forget because you and I learned to dance pretty well. And it's not that, that we don't ever have disagreements. It's just that we come back quicker.
Yes. Or we've learned to dismiss the smaller ones quicker.
Like it just comes back quicker because we know and value each other as human beings. We know morally value where we stand. So when you have that, you know what I'm saying? It's easier to say, oh, well, they really didn't mean it that. Like, I know where their heart is or whatever. And I remember hearing, I forgot the man's name. Very spiritual. He started the first Christian news radio, I think in New Mexico.
Oh, Gilbert
Lawson. Yeah. And he spent some time with us. And he talked about that, about how have disagreements. But what he appreciated about his mentors was how quickly they came back together. And that's when you start really illustrating that power in communication and trust and whatnot. So yeah, it's not that we don't have disagreements or we're not always aligned fully, but
oh no, we disagree often. No, thinking back to a recent training we had where we opened up for some Q&A, and there's so many people that struggle with this. It's very common. And while you're in this season can be very difficult to navigate, the thing that comes out on the other end is so beautiful. So, like the partnership that we have now. We have been in business together for a very long time, since I was 26 and I'm 40 now. So, there you go for the math. But it was not easy at first. In fact, I would say almost our first 6 years was really rough, and learning how to work together in an actual business and then work together at home also. And I think that's one of the struggle really is it's not often, it's really not the business that is quote unquote to blame. It is, how do you and your spouse handle conflict?
Well, I think what I was going to say, I think the disconnect is particularly when one spouse decides to start endeavoring or diving into personal development.
Something new. Yeah.
And something new. Mm-hmm. And I think that causes some disconnect because they're not on the same page to begin with. So you got one spouse that's growing, that's creating, that's imagining, that's dreaming. And then you have another spouse that's, I'll just say stagnant, right?
Or just going through the motions. What's normal.
And that's where the disconnection comes. And I think that's what we see a lot of, because in what we do involves a lot of personal development from all kinds of sources.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It feels uncomfortable. And how that can look is it can look like, especially if, to be honest, a lot of times, the relationship might be having some issues here or there. And I always say, anytime you take on something new that is going to cause you or both of you in a couple to grow, it exposes some foundational cracks, some cracks that can be mended or need to be mended. And these things pop up in all kinds of different areas of life, So a lot of times what people are experiencing when they come into personal development or growing a business, and they're taking that head on first versus doing it simultaneously with your partner, which, newsflash, that rarely ever happens. A lot of times in partnerships and couples, it's like one person feels compelled or convicted to go in just a slightly new direction in life, right? For whatever could be taking their spiritual life to a new level, business, physical health, whatever. And then at some point, hopefully that other person sees like the growth and wants to join in. But what happens before the at some point? In that there's the little middle part where that one person veers off the course of what's normal just ever so slightly. And the other person's looking like, hey, what the heck, dude? We don't go that way. Like we travel straight ahead. That's all we do. We don't take a left. We don't take a right. We don't take loopy loops,
Yeah.
And the person watching the person in front's like thrown off, So this is
like, hey, that wasn't the plan.
That was not the plan. You stay on the path. Me and my sister, Alicia, she used to do improv all the time. And one of her skits was like, you stay on the path. Anyway.
It's a golden child.
Oh, that's right. That was the golden child.
I want the knife.
Oh my God, now I want to watch that movie. We're so old.
So thinking about just being transparent with us, when I finally was sick and tired of being sick and tired, because I saw the finances, like you were like, oh, that's you. I don't understand that, for the most part, like, hey, that's, and they're like, oh, thank you. And, that like pushed me initially to say, man, things have got to be better. So I started diving into, we were talking before we kicked this off about, like, I think it's Eric Thomas, the E.T. hip hop preacher. I think he some kind of way snuck in there and on my frequency.
And you started reading?
He fired me up. I started reading.
I was like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Yeah. And I don't know. And it really lit a fire under me.
It was interesting too, because prior to that, I think about sometimes we're asking for, we've got these prayers that we're praying to God for our spouse or for our relationship, and we're just wanting things to be different and better, and we want to grow together. And then something happens that can cause you to grow together and be stronger, and initially you reject it. So while before you walked into that season, it's, we've told our story. It's not a news flash that we once struggled in our marriage significantly to the point of, even thinking that we needed to divorce. So I had all these hopes and dreams for our relationship, and you wanted to become a better person. And then when I saw it in real life happening, I felt more threatened than I was thrilled,
Right.
And it's
sort of finding the gratitude.
And so it'd be like, oh my God, that's my man. Look at him stepping up, to the point of also you bringing the current, business that we're in to us, and me being like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, So all the good new things, they just felt like new things and uncomfortable, even though I didn't want our current norm, what I was comfortable with, which was fighting or feeling like we didn't have enough money or whatever it was. I didn't want that to be our norm, but I was very conditioned. So it was interesting as I watched you to go from feeling threatened to feeling
initial response threatened,
inadequate to then being curious, like seeing you excited about life or energized or kinder, or just like the actual things that needed to change between us too. And then I was, caught myself kind of learning from you as you regurgitated things that you were excited about. Instead of being annoyed, I opened my ears, so.
Yeah, you did actually. Give you credit on that.
Yeah,
Like
I
you
really
actually
like you learning and just like, and I like to, I'll
you
be a
still do that
sponge.
to this day. You still, I mean, you read a lot on your own, but I'm saying till this day, still, you're still curious still.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm reading something, like I'm reading Life Force right now, Tony
Yeah.
Robbins' book. And
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I figure, I can read what I read. And then if I ask you what you're reading and learning, then it's like, I'm doing double the work, I'm like with you, but you're doing some of it for me. So thank you.
yeah. Yeah. So that's natural. So if that sounds familiar, it's just natural. Like if
Yes.
you're at home and this is going on.
Yes. It's just unfamiliar territory. Doesn't make the feeling though, when you're on the other side. So for like you, for instance, when you start taking that first step forward and I was resisting and not even to the point of not encouraging, but actually discouraging
It was somewhat frustrating because it was frustrating because it's like, man, is she ever going to catch up? Like, is she, at the time, is she ever going to get it? But it was like, nope, you stay, be in the light, shining bright.
Yeah.
Right.
You stayed faithful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they can borrow that.
Yeah.
Until they get it themselves.
To the point where I actually remember the point. Like I remember we were in our kitchen. A lot of things happened in our kitchen, but I remember you were excited about something new that you had read or you were like regurgitating it. And then for the first time I saw it and I remember thinking, I want to feel like he feels. So you held the line. So one thing you have to do is you have to hold the line for your spouse.
So they have that awakening.
Do you really feel like you married the right person? Like, I feel like you felt like you're like, I'm with her because she's the right person for me. And so you held the line for me. And I feel the same. We flip-flopped in that from times, when our side hustle and being on meetings or certain things conflicted with normal things we were used to, like after dinner, turning on the TV. Mm-hmm. And, and I'd get on the Zoom call and you'd be like, what are you doing at 7:00 at night on a Zoom call? Like the kids need to be in bed or this or that, but I learned from you held the line for me. So I was like, I know I'm holding the line for him. I know he wants this and I know this is what we got to do. So if you know that you're with the person you're meant to be with, there's going to be a season you just hold that line for them.
That's good. And I just think communication. I know it seems like we always talk about that, but that's what we do as human beings, and we're pretty shitty at it. And it's amazing that marriages and people who devote their whole lives, how crappy they are at communicating. We don't even realize it. I said we, because, we're still getting better at that too. I mean, we've gotten 10 times better. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are today. But yeah, it's like, I guess sitting where I am now, I don't fully comprehend unless I change the lens in which I view it. Because if I look through the lens of where I am now, it's kind of like, I don't get it. But if I flip the lens to where I was 10, 12 years ago, makes sense. Like we were crappy at communication. Because now I look, I'm like, well, how do you have an unsupporting spouse when you're trying to achieve something great that would benefit not just you, them, the family, the world, like depending on the magnitude that you grow it at, but what your goal is, like the lens now is like, I don't even comprehend that.
Right.
But if I look through it through the lenses of a decade ago,
it's communication.
then it's communication. Like, how do you not sit that person down and say, look, and this is something I would highly encourage. I mean, you're married to him for Pete's sake. Like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you're doing life till death do you part.
And if you can't have the verbal conversation, write a letter. Because I know there's sometimes where marriages, they're in this terrible habit loop of where someone's listening to that right now thinking, you don't get it, Harold. I can't speak to my wife or I can't speak to my, because every time I talk about this, they get defensive.
Down or they get defensive. Yeah, that's good. That's a really good point. Because we've been in those situations in the past where it's like we're talking and texting. Like we
and it seems ridiculous, but But
in that moment, that's kind of what it needed to get. That's a good point. Yeah. To where it got to the point to where we finally started evolving. It's like, I'm not texting no more. Like
I know.
we are.
Can we like look at each other eye to eye, and you know that I love you and you love me,
much more evolved,
and we don't want to fight, but we don't fully agree on something. So how do we come into agreement?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So the communication, yeah, definitely.
But and then communicating, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go. No. Okay. I didn't want to cut off your thought, but to the point where we work with people a lot. And also I know that we've done this in the past too, where like literally you did not communicate your goal. Like, and if you don't know your goal specifically, well, then this is, you go take 5 minutes, go outside, go wherever you can, sit in the car with some music, whatever inspires you. And like really write down, what is your vision? Why are you doing this? Then go communicate that to your spouse. Hey, honey, I'm not like doing this to try and grow away from you. I'm doing this to grow together, to actually get more time with you, to have more experiences, to have more adventures, to impact our children, our grandchildren, or this or that. So many people haven't even, they're just like, oh yeah, I picked up this side hustle to make a little extra money. And your spouse is thinking, it's not worth it for $50 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes competing for their time. Mm-hmm. And then you think about the individuals. I just keep thinking back, working with our coaches and our team, and how they'll go to these events and they're lit up on fire. And then they get back home. Like they're at this event, they're feeling it, they can smell it, they can taste it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like the frequency's high, full of abundance, full of, what's possible. And then they get back home in the probability world versus possibility. And a spouse who didn't experience none of that, didn't feel it, didn't taste it, didn't smell it, none of it. And then you're confused at why
they don't
the
see
disconnect.
what you say.
Yeah, the disconnect. So that's something to keep in mind and have empathy, right? Like put the shoe on the other foot.
Yes. Yeah. Give them time. I mean, that's something that, we tell the people that we get to mentor all the time. I'm like, you are here with us right now. You're in these meetings. You come to events with us. We mentor you personally. You've seen the vision. You've seen people's lives transform. And they've seen maybe a fraction of it, if any, at all. And then you can't understand why they don't get, So you have to invite them in on the journey. You have to ask them to take the trip with you, like be willing to find some childcare if you need to. But also too, I feel like it's not just to sit in the meetings or to go hear someone speak at you too. What we found too is like we desperately needed, especially after having kids, but also we didn't establish the habit even before having kids, to be honest, of having that quality time together. And so we started looking at these trips or this time together, whether it was a virtual meeting or anything, any chance that we had to sit in the same room together as quality time together. Like, hey, we'd go any city we travel to for events now, we always go in early. And sometimes we stay late if it fits with the agenda, but we always get some time together, just me and you, and we make fun of it. And it's something that has grown us together as a couple to where our marriage actually does come first. So what do you do while you're in that sort of kind of a race where you're just you're pacing ahead of them? They can catch up.
I think
you're kind of bridging that gap.
If you communicate how you can communicate, whether it's like you said, through text, through paper, through sitting down. I think if you can sit down, if you're to the point to where you can sit down and have a conversation without writing it, you're much further along in coming in alignment. Yeah. But yeah, that's distracting.
Your cat.
Sounds like
she wants to hang out. The other thing is because this is going to probably happen, is what do you do when you get the looks or the comments or even the disapproving sigh that you're working on your business, or that you have another meeting, or that you're making another post, or that you got another event, because while you're trying to allow your spouse to catch pace with you, there's still the gap in the middle. And I find that when we talk to people that we mentor, that's what makes them the saddest. That's what draws the emotions, is the way the family and or spouse is responding to them while they are growing the business. And sometimes there's some comments that hurt, sometimes there's some eye rolls that hurt. It's like, oh, your little thing, and you're thinking, this is not little. Like, this is huge. And you want them to get it, but they still are going to just need time to grow into that, What do? You don't fight. Like, I know that there's probably been times where I said or had a tone or even like body language that felt disapproving and just didn't make you feel confident in what you're doing, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And you can snap back, because I think we're all conditioned to, the person we will fight or argue with the quickest is probably your spouse
Mm-hmm.
and or your kids or family. But what you give energy expands.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a response for everything.
Especially when you're operating in that space of growth and personal development. Stephen Covey talked about don't give your power away to other people's sins. So in that moment, that's the way I was operating, because it's kind of like, oh, well, she doesn't know. She's acting unconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Eckhart Tolle actually says that the purest form of judgment is to judge someone who's acting from a place of unconsciousness, because that person isn't who they are, right?
Yeah.
It's not them. So actually, when I was operating in that space, and when you're operating in that space, it's don't give your power away to other people's sins, which is the grins or the smirks or the roll the eyes or whatever. You just stay steady. If you've tried to communicate, you have communicated. I mean, you have the right to grow. Like, you're either growing or you're dying. There's this whole managing or maintenance or trudging along.
Exist.
No, keep growing. It'll be contagious. Yeah. Stay steadfast in it.
Yeah. And your light exposes area of growth too,
Yeah. I'm not saying everything's going to be cured and everything's going to be hunky dory, because I don't know the relationship.
Right.
I don't know what the relationship was built on. I don't know the morals and values.
Yes.
I don't know how much of alignment you're
if
in.
it is mostly a functional relationship,
yeah,
there's hope.
This is just in a general sense of advice of what we did. And,
Right. Yep. And through that process, that's how the space in between you goes from sometimes miles to a half a mile to then what I like to say is being powerfully coupled, where you're lockstep, you're operating on the same core values at the same speed most of the time. You know what you want, you know where you're going there together. And you let your partner operate in their strengths too, Stop having stealth expectations for your spouse. Sometimes people are unhappy with their spouses because they want them to be a certain way or do a certain thing. And we see that all the time when people are especially coming into business with their spouse. They brought them home. And then all of a sudden it's like, woo. It's like, that's when the marriage counseling tends to start. Because you had these stealth expectations of what you thought life was going to be like, but you never brought your partner in on it, and then you try to be your partner's boss.
That's a fun part. We talk about that because that is a fun part. And again, it depends on what level the communication is. But if you get to a point to where you can start saying, hey, dream with me type of thing, this is what this vehicle can do that for us. And it's asking honest questions. Hey, if I continue to do what we're doing now in the next 10, 20 years, will it yield us what we want or what we're settling for?
And that was a huge, powerful awakening question for, I think, both of us. Because I had to be honest. I had to no, if I keep doing everything that I've been doing today and the day before,
it's going to get
not
us
getting me
everything that we settle for and not what we truly desire. I think at that point, that's when you can start dreaming and saying, hey, you write down things that you want to create and things like if you could not fail. And that's when it gets fun with the spouse. If you can get to that point, because then you're starting to open up their willingness to support and get behind something as a team. to where they can write down their wish list or their dream list or their what they desire. Then you write yours and you come together and you compare. And then you'll be surprised to see some alignment, obviously. But then you'll also be surprised to learn things that you may not have known about them and what they want to create. And it's kind of interesting. Because I really didn't know. I say this all the time, but for some reason, I missed the cue that you really desired horses.
Yeah.
Like I had a love for horses. Well, like, you mentioned it, this and that, but I didn't realize that would be on your goal list.
Yeah.
So that was cool. It was interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, when I never talked about it because there were certain things,
it was just
dreams that I buried,
it was out of touch.
I was like, that's not what our life is going to look like. I'm not going to have, acres and acres upon which I can have a horse, even if I can afford a horse. And then, so it was just something so that's something else is to, we think about the time we spend with the people that we mentor and helping them dream.
Mm-hmm.
We probably, a large portion of what we get paid to do what we do is just helping people dream again and set goals. Mm-hmm. And then it's so funny how we want to turn around and look at our spouses and be like, don't you see it? Come on, people, help. You're going to have to turn around and reach out that hand and pull them up and be like, come on, we can dream again. Whatever broke your dreamer, like we're going to heal it and we're going to do this together and have fun together. Like if you are putting the business before your spouse, I guess they are disgruntled.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I guess the lesson is clear communication.
Yep.
It may look different.
Hold the line.
And hold the line and stay steady in growth and be the light.
And teach and help them dream again. Bring them into the dream. And
don't react. That's going to be the hardest thing. Don't give your power away to other people's sins.
Yeah, that's good.
Expect it. And that's the thing. When you expect something, you're not drawn into it. You're not reacting because you're just expect it to happen. The eye rolls, like you said, or the displeasure of you getting on a call or you getting on another meeting or you listening to a YouTube, or reading another book or whatever. Expect it, hold the line, and continue to try and communicate. I think that's it.
Yep, that's it. Good luck. Peace out, guys. We're the Freedom Parents, and we believe that you deserve to design the life that you desire.